Got a lot of people tonight.
Have anything special tonight? No?
Thank you. Attendance, Mr. Benny, is there any apologies?
No apologies, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Council acknowledges and pays respect to the past, present and future traditional owners and their elders of this nation and the continuation of cultural, spiritual and educational practices of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. We got drum now. Where's Councillor Lim? He's supposed to be reading the prayer tonight. Councillor Lim? That's all right. As part of Council's commitment to recognising the cultural and spiritual diversity of our community, the prayer this evening will be offered by Mr. Jasbir Singh Sapur from the Sikh community, a member of the Greater Dandenong Interfaith Network, and Councillor Lim will be reading that prayer. Please stand.
The remembrance of God is the highest and most exalted of all. In the remembrance of God, many are saved, thirst is quenched, all things are known, there is no fear of death, hopes are fulfilled, the filth of the mind is removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Please be seated. I'd also like to welcome our former councillors to the council chamber, Yuhun Chia, Matthew Kerwin and Zainun Malam. Inviting them tonight, council meeting gives us an opportunity to personally thank them for their ongoing effort to make the city of Greater Dandenong a much better place to live, work and raise a family. In presenting these letters under seal, council offers its thanks and appreciation to you and your work as an elected ward councillor. Your contribution, records of experience, dedication and service to our community is appreciated by our city as a whole. Have we got...
Thank you.
Matthew Kerwin, please. Congratulations. Before we start the rest of our meeting, we have a notice to go out. On behalf of Greater Dandenong Council and staff, I offer our sincere condolences to Nichols' family as they reflect on and celebrate the life of Margaret. Margaret Nichols was one of the 3 commissioners appointed to oversee the amalgamation of the former city of Springvale and then the city of Dandenong, which became known as the City of Greater Dandenong. This amalgamation in 1994 was a significant event in our municipal history. Being a former mayor of the City of Oakleigh, Margaret's sense of community, local government knowledge, experience and tendency held her in good stead for the role of Commissioner. In particular, she was a key contributor to the strong foundation principles being established for the future governance of the Greater Dandenong City Council. As well as as a very well respected and admired friend of our city, we proudly acknowledge Margaret's contribution to and the influence she had on the formation of our City Council. We share our gratitude of Margaret's leadership and send our sincere condolences and thoughts to her family and friends during this sad time. Item number 1.4, confirmation of minutes of ordinary meeting council held on the 22nd of February 2021. Moved by
Happy to move
Councillor
it, thanks.
Hand, seconded by Councillor Dark. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 1.5, disclosures of interest. Mr. Benny?
Mayor and councillors, there is a single disclosure this evening. It's from Councillor Chimameti. It relates to item 2.2.1, Town Planning Application 8 to 12 Dalgety Street, Dandenong. The type of interest is a general conflict of interest, and the nature of the interest is that Councillor Meti is a member of the mosque, which is the subject of this town planning application. Councillor Meti will be required to redeclare this declaration prior to the item and to leave the chamber for the item.
Thank you, Mr. Benny. Item number 2, Officers' Report Part 1, Documents for Table. 2.1.1, Petitions and Joint Letters. Moved by Councillor Mehmeti, seconded by Councillor Gerard. You had a question, Councillor Mehmeti?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This petition is from 406 residents requesting a community hub in Dandenong. And they're basically saying in the petition that this council moved on the 14th of September 2020 and in the 2021 financial year concept designs for the integrational Dandenong Community Hub with a capacity for children's services and formal and informal meeting and activity spaces to be drawn up and exhibited. My question is, have we changed from this direction? Because the community is expecting that to happen in the 2020-21 year.
Mr. Fiddler, please, sorry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, the petition has been received and has been actioned. The council will be discussing this matter at the council weekend this weekend, and will determine what goes forward from here, whether that is what is stated in the NOM, or what is we've talked previously, which is about developing a business case, which will assist in achieving these things as well. So they're all interconnected, but it will be determined and discussed at this weekend's Council of Strategic Planning weekend. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler.
Question, Madam Mayor. If we were to do a business case study instead of doing what the NOM did say, would this project be prolonged by another 12 months?
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that's something that the business case actually needs to determine. Part of what was done in the needs analysis was determining what was currently in the community, what was predominantly ageing, what services were fragmented, what was also a lot of community feedback from key stakeholders, including residents, about what their aspirations were for the community hub. So a business case will help put all of that together, create some timeframes, create some budget, and we can report back on that following the development of that. But at this stage, we can't progress a feasibility or concept designs without a business case. There's more information that is required to find a location and then to design a building and some concepts that would suit that location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Just there's people in the audience here tonight who have asked these questions as part of this petition. So once this business case study is done, when do we think that something else would come to the council to making sure that this happens sooner than later?
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, as soon as council is able to make a decision, we in the background have been preparing a business case to go out to tender for consultants. So it's not like the work has stopped. A lot of work has still gone on behind the scenes, and we hope to progress that as soon as possible, including communications to the petitioners and all the other people that are interested in this project as well. So we'll know more in the next few weeks. I think it's also been stated publicly that if the funds that are in the budget for this project, if they're not expended in this current financial year, that we can carry them forward into the next financial year. But it's worth, Madam Mayor, getting this project right. It's going to be a big project. We want to make sure it's in the right location and has the right designs. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. This is going to be annoying. Is there any other questions? Councillor Garrard, please. Sorry, excuse the noise. We've got no control over that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I thought I was at the dentist there. Just to follow up to Jim, Councillor Mamedi's question, I don't think you answered accurately about the timeframe for the business plan. Will that take 12 months, or what is the timeframe for the anticipated business plan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's a bit hard to hear. The timeframe will be determined over the next few months through the business case. You can't determine a feasibility or location or concepts without the business case. You'd be flying blind. So we need to provide, I'm not going to give a date now, that's something that needs to come through the business case.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr
you.
Fiddler. Is there any other questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Yes,
Madam Mayor, this is the
Councillor
mover.
Mamedi.
The petitioners are here. They've been very loud and clear over many years. We've delivered a community hub in Springvale. We're delivering a community hub in Keysborough. The fastest community is the Greater Dandenong community, Central CBD Dandenong. They've been waiting for a long time. I can understand their frustrations. This council has got some tough decisions to make in the next few months because we need to deliver this community a community hub. This community is a growing community. Many new migrants come into this community who rely on meeting new people. So I urge my colleagues in the next few months that this decision will come before us. We need to make this decision on behalf of our community, for our community, and we must stand up and make sure we deliver.
Thank you, Councillor Mamedi. Thank you, thank you. All right, item number 2.2, 2.2.1, town planning application number 8 to 12, Dalgety Street, Dandenong, planning application number PLN 11/0866.02.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to declare an interest. My interest is a general conflict of interest. I'm a member of the mosque, which is the subject of this town planning application.
Thank you, Councillor Mamedi. We have to wait until he leaves the room. Item number 2.2, statutory planning application, 2.2.1, town planning application number 8 to 12, Dalgety Street, Dandenong, planning application number PLN 11/0866.02. Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Foster. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Can we have...
Mayor,
sorry. Yes, Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much to my colleagues for supporting the planning application for the Albanian Mosque in Dalgety Street, Dandenong. I myself, during the COVID shutdown when our council was remote, went for walks every couple of nights at 5 p.m. along with most of the residents in Dandenong South, and it is definitely of knowledge and to use of the council to know that the majority of residents who now reside within this precinct identify as Muslim and are residents and members of the Albanian mosques within Dandenong. This application was one which previously had town planning approval, with the subject to a few amendments to increase the amount of the space so they can have, I suppose, more space to be able to spread out. It doesn't increase the amount of people who are going to attend, and they're still keeping it with 150 as occupancy. So I wish to congratulate the Albanian Mosque for getting their permit and to my councils once again for supporting it.
Thank you, Councillor Dark. Yes, Councillor O'Reilly.
Thank you, Matt. Well, I've read this application all the way through. It meets the requirements. I think it's a natural extension of growth for this religious facility, if I can call it that, but it's good to see the Albanian Muslim community growing from strength to strength, and Council is proud to support that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor O'Reilly. May we have Councillor Mamedi back into the chamber, please? Item number 3, question time public. Mr. Benny, please.
The first question this evening is from Eric Chen. Eric asked to ask the question himself, but I don't see him in the gallery, so I'll ask it on his behalf. Regarding the Hemming Street Precinct Action Plan community consultation, I phoned and emailed to Donna Masick from Council Community Development Unit asking the community consultation survey findings on the draft Hemming Street Precinct Action Plan. She did not want to release the community consultation result to the public prior to the council adoption on the 21st of March 2021. My question is, can the public of the Hemming Street Precinct have the right to access the community consultation result? Does the council want to consult with the public to amend the plan? Mr. Fiddler could respond, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Mr. Chen, for his question. The information we provided during the consultation period requested contact details of people and residents wanting to receive updates from the plan, so it was always our intention to provide feedback. As we advised Mr. Chen on the 2nd of March, a summary of the Hemming Street community consultation findings will be available to the public following the endorsement of the report at the 22nd of March council meeting. We are extremely grateful for all the community feedback that we received in the consultation, and we look forward to ongoing community engagement as we all work together in implementing the plan. The findings of the consultation after the council meeting will also be publicised. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Fiddler. Mr. Benny, please.
The second question is from Sabrina Miletto of Dandenong. I can't find anything on the Greater Dandenong website about the redevelopment of Little India by Capital Alliance. When is the consultation and when will Council be assisting State Government promoting it, given its extensive links to the Dandenong residential community? What do councillors think of the project? How are Council looking after our interests as Dandenong residents on this project? Mr Van Boxtel could respond.
Mr. Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Sabrina, for your questions. In collaboration with Development Victoria, Capital Alliance will be undertaking community consultation on the proposed master plan during the current calendar year. Councillors are being briefed on this matter next month. Council, as part of the partnership with Development Victoria, will advocate for appropriate engagement with our Greater Dandenong community and will promote this accordingly. We thank you for your interest in this matter and confirm that our website will be updated shortly with additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Van Boxtel. Mr Benny, please.
The next three questions are from Don Bakari of Keysborough. Late 2020, Mr Kearsley stated our council applied for $3 million state government grant for the shovel-ready childcare centre at the Keysborough Community South Community Hub. This comment by Mr Kearsley was a major factor to not allow this project to go back for more community consultation. If we were not successful, why not? And if we were successful in the grant, well played. I'm sure there's a question in there that Mr Boxtel can respond to, Madam Mayor.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor, thank you, Don, for your question. I can confirm that Council received a $3 million state government grant for the Keysborough South Community Hub. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Van Boxtel. Mr Benny, please.
Also from Don Bakari of Keysborough. Late in 2020, Councillor Maria Sampley had a notice of motion supported by the majority of councillors to have the fire pit policy rewritten with public community input. Is this policy ready for community input? And if not, why not? Mr Bosman could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Thank you, Dom, for the question. I can advise that the matter of the fire pit issue that Dom refers to will go out for community input as part of the review of the local law. That's being drafted at the moment and will go out for community consultation in the course of this year, and that forms part of that revision.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr
Mayor.
Bosman. Mr Benny, please.
Also from Don Bakari. In 2020, a local community member and I participated in a Zoom meeting with Mr Jench, Mr Bosman and Councillor Metty to discuss the Keysborough South $350 levy. After our meeting, an email exchange we received in writing from Mr Bosman, there is an overlap of fees charged to the residents of Keysborough South on the levy of 20% of the 20% charged by our council. Will council amend the $350 fee by 20%, i.e. $75? And if not, why not? Mr Bosman could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you again through yourself. Thank you to Dom. Discussions on this matter did indeed take place, as mentioned by Mr Bakari. However, there is no overlap of services provided, and there's no overlap of fees charged. And on that basis, no change to the levy is proposed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Mr Benny, please.
The next question is from Gay Guest of Keysborough. What a popular reserve Burden Park is, which was absolutely packed to the gunnels on Saturday the 6th of March. Every feature of the park was being well patronaged, which was lovely to see, having been on the community committee that built the Leathers playground. As I waited for the families to arrive, I took in all the sights until I noticed the overflowing bins filled to the brim with one-use plastic items, and this distracted from my experience and just made me feel sad. Am I right in thinking all of the rubbish for our reserves bins ends up in landfill rather than being sorted? Do we need to add extra bins at peak times in popular reserves like they do at the beach on warm days to take the excess rubbish, or have no bins like Japan to encourage people to be responsible for their own waste? Why isn't the message getting through to residents and visitors to take their rubbish home so it can be recycled? What can we do better to educate patrons like us, items in our Weskies were taken home to be washed and reused? Are the solar-powered bins in Casey Council combating throwaway rubbish or just compacting it to allow the bin to be filled more? A number of general questions there about waste disposal at parks in general, and Mr Van Boxtel could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Gay, for your questions. Council has progressively rolled out public place recycling bins at several locations across the city where higher volumes of litter are generated. We plan to extend the installation of these bins into our district parks which have major playgrounds, including Burden Park. Council's practice has been to provide bins for the disposal of litter at these sites and has supported community education and engagement to adopt public place recycling at numerous public events and other engagement avenues. The Burden Park public litter bins are emptied 7 days a week and service levels are monitored on an ongoing basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Van Boxtel. Mr Benny, please.
Next question is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. When is the Greater Dandenong Sustainability Report for 2019-20 going to be published, and given that the 2018-19 report was a year late and this one is running almost 9 months late, so far is there an underlying resource issue in the sustainability team behind why this are no longer being published fairly promptly after the end of the respective financial year like they used to be? Mr Bosman could respond, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Thank you to Mr Kerwin. While the annual sustainability report reflects the financial year to best align with Council's budgetary and operational processes, a portion of the data comprised within the annual report is available only on a calendar year basis due to a number of factors such as the utility billing periods and contractual agreements with data providers. Additionally, as the Greater Dandenong Sustainability Strategy 2016 to 2030 is currently undergoing its 5-year review, the 2019 to 2020 Annual Sustainability Report will form a part of the broader strategy refresh rather than being presented as a standalone document. This will be completed by the end of this financial year and will enable officers to provide the community with a greater level of detail and context in regards to sustainability achievements within CGD. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Bosman. Mr Benny, please.
The final question this evening is from Matthew Kerwin of Noble Park. How is action on notice of motion number 87, advocacy for activation of and public realm improvements to the area of central Springvale between Queen's Avenue, the railway line, Springvale Road and Buckingham Avenue of the Council meeting on 14th of September 2020 progressing? Has there been any meetings with the Department of Transport, and has there been a tangible way forward identified? Mr Van Boxtel could respond, Madam Mayor.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Matthew, for your question. Council has received a reply from the Minister for Transport Infrastructure advising that the land is currently leased by Metro Trains Melbourne. Council has commenced discussions with Metro to determine if a sublease might be possible.
Thank you, Mr Van Boxtel. Mr Benny, please.
Mayor and Councillors, that concludes the public questions for tonight, but there were 9 public questions taken on notice at the last meeting. All have been completed and responded and are tabled this evening for the minutes.
Thank you, Mr Benny. Item number 4, Officers' Report Part 2, 4.1 Contracts. 4.1.1, Contract number 2021-05, Abbots Road widening. Taylors Road to Cranbourne Railway Line.
Move, Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Dark, seconded by Councillor Tan. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2, Other. 4.2.1, Draft Minutes of the Multicultural and People Seeking Asylum Advisory Committee meeting 2nd of February 2021. Moved by Councillor Formoso, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.2, Reports on matters discussed at councillors' briefing sessions and pre-council meetings, the 8th and 15th of February 2021. Moved by Councillor Tan, seconded by Councillor Lim. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 4.2.3, List of registered correspondence to Mayor and Councillors. Moved by Councillor Lim, seconded by Councillor Gerard. Is there any questions, councillors? Is there any opposition? As there's no opposition, I declare this item carried. Item number 5, Notice of Motion. There are none. Item number 6, reports from councillors, delegates and councillors' question. I will start with Councillor Riley. Where's Councillor Trong? Just gone out, has he? We'll come back to him, but Councillor O'Reilly, please.
I've been to quite a few events that will probably be mentioned by other councillors, so I'll just go with my question, if I may, Mayor.
Yep.
At the Clean Up Australia Day event, I was talking with quite a few people, including one community leader in particular, and they were a bit in dismay because they couldn't find anyone to help them apply for a council community grant, or I think we call it community funding or community grant or whatever, using our online application system, Smarty Grants. They couldn't get any assistance as far as language goes. So as we know, being the most multicultural municipality in Australia, we have so many wonderful community leaders who have, a strong heart, good organising capability, but perhaps not the strongest English language proficiency. And I think that was the case here. So I then took note of that and checked our website and Smarty Grants web page, and I saw that while there is a general contact information for the Community Funding Support Officer, there wasn't anything that specifically said that language assistance was available. And I think if there's any municipality that should have this sort of offer of assistance front and centre, then the City of Greater Dandenong is the council that where it should be. So I've made a number of suggestions to the Director of Community Services via email, and I'd like to hear his response. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr Fiddler, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor O'Reilly, for your questions. We do appreciate these questions because they do assist us with looking at continuous improvement on our systems. So the website will be updated to highlight links to community funding and clarify available language assistance. Over the last year, we haven't received any negative feedback about the site, but we have had some older community members express frustration at not being able to meet in person during the COVID restrictions. Our team members have continued to provide support by telephone and the Teams meetings or Zooms meetings, but we do know that culturally and linguistically diverse people and those that have English as a second language do prefer to meet in person. Officers will include reports on requests for language assistance with other grant metrics, as one of your questions, Councillor O'Reilly, has asked, and we can capture this information through the application stage in the Smarty Grants program in the software. Your third point, we will be looking at translation of key grants information, and processes will be prepared for the top 5 languages. And we'll also include a link to Council's Translation Service info, which is known as the TIS. And that is a service that anybody can ring, and the 160 different nationalities in our municipality, their language will be available through that TIS service. We're also developing a support applications with language programs for people and groups that have low vision. And again, the Smarty Grants program, through your prompting of the question, we had a look into it, and we've identified that people with low vision do have problems as well. So that's the areas that we'll be looking at immediately. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Fiddler. Councillor O'Reilly, you're all right? We'll go back to Councillor Trong. Yes, Councillor reports. You got nothing?
Because last week we worked for, organize the people to work for Clean Up Australia Day. and very successful. Over 100 people come to work together, and we put the rubbish at the Burden Park, and council come to collect.
Thank you. Councillor Formoso, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's been a busy couple of weeks, actually, so I'll quickly go through some of the things that I attended over the past few weeks. Thursday, 25th of February was the VLGA AGM, which was held online. So if any of my colleagues wanted the minutes for that, I'm happy to pass that on. Friday, 26th of February, I was finally able to attend my first soccer match in a very, very long time. So that was the Thunder versus City, and it was a 1-1 score. Luckily, the Jim Mameti Cup got to stay where it belongs. And on the Saturday, the 27th of February, I was invited with my family to attend the Sangam Performing Arts Festival, which was the Earth Matters walking tour, which was held at the Drum Theatre, Harmony Square and Walker Street Theatre. It was great to be back at the Drum Theatre and attending events again, so well done to the team for that. It was an excellent event. Sunday, March 7th, Clean Up Australia Day. Exhausting day. I started at 8 o'clock in the morning and I finished about 5:30 in the afternoon. My children and I attended quite a few parks and reserves in the Noble Park North Ward, and it was a really great event, and I'd really like more people to get involved next year. I think it's a really important event that we need to highlight in our community, particularly in this municipality. And of course, yesterday was International Women's Day. And unfortunately, we didn't get to have all the events that we would normally have each year for such an event. But I was fortunate enough to be part of a photo shoot at the Greater Dandenong SES unit with 6 of my fellow volunteers, and we did a great photo shoot for SES. So that was excellent. So you could see that online. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Councillor Foster, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like my fellow councillor, Councillor Formosa, I'd just like to recognise that yesterday was International Women's Day. I note that in the media in the past couple of weeks, it's probably been a very difficult time for many women who have perhaps experienced gender inequality, sexual assault, sexual abuse of that nature. So I think I remind our community about the benefits of what women have to offer and gender equality. I have one question, Madam Mayor. I've had an inquiry from a resident about the very low tree canopy cover on Carpenter Street in Noble Park. The resident notes that several of the trees on their street have died or are in poor condition. Several properties don't seem to have any nature strip trees, and the few small trees that they do have on the street appear to be damaged by severe pruning. The resident has requested to have their street added to Council's list for planting new trees if possible. And given Council's urban tree strategy, through you, Madam Mayor, can I please ask that this street be considered for improvements, please?
Thank you. It will be listed. Mr Van Boxel.
Through the Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Foster. Was it Carpenter Street? Was it? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we do have a program for replanting in our street, so hopefully that's on the list, but I'll follow it up and we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Councillor Garrard, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I attended the Audit and Risk Committee this week with Madam Mayor, and a progress report will come to Council soon on the critically important work of this committee. I also had the pleasure of attending the Sustainability Committee, and I'd really like to sincerely thank the staff that are involved in that committee. They're doing tremendous work to improve the sustainability in the city of Dandenong, and working very hard towards the Forever Fest that will be held in Dandenong May the 22nd to the 30th, which will be a tremendous event. I also attended the South East Council Climate Change Alliance, which works to progress the work of councils in the South East area towards zero emissions and climate resilience. There was recognition within that meeting of the concerning data around climate that has recently emerged, showing that we are reaching an even more critical point around global warming. I wish to congratulate all the residents that participated in the Clean Up Australia event on the weekend. There were thousands of residents that came not only from Dandenong but from outside Dandenong and worked tirelessly throughout the day to clean up this area, and it was a tremendous event, and I thank them very much for their time and their concern about the city of Dandenong. I had the great pleasure today of attending the Keysborough Gardens Primary School and talked to the grades 3 and 4 who had around civics and around concepts such as democracy, and all I can say is kids of that age are much smarter than I was at that age and kept me on my toes with the questions they asked. But the great thing is they had tremendous input around ideas for the playground for the Keysborough South Hub and the ways that the community can participate in this in a meaningful way. We also took the traffic officers to the school and have put in some local solutions to try and address the traffic issues that occur after school in the Keysborough Primary School. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the Council for their quick response a couple of weeks ago when we had a very concerning event in Keysborough South of dog baiting. We had 3 incidents of dog baiting at the Villas Road Dog Park and in someone's yard. And within an hour of being alerted, the council had a ranger at the park who was patrolling the park to ensure it was safe. And that ranger, I'd like the manager to commend her efforts. She has since attended almost every day to patrol that park to make sure it is safe for residents, and the police are investigating that incident. I think it's a tremendous example of how responsive the council can be, and I also commend the council for their decision now to use the dog registration process to create an alert system through SMS systems for issues that relate, critical issues that relate to dogs in the area. I'd also like to thank the residents of Keysborough South for the tremendous input we've had so far on the playground for the Keysborough South hub. There's been some tremendous ideas, and you know, this playground will be a standout and will be a credit to the Keysborough South area. I also attended the Arts Advisory Board, and I'd like to thank the outgoing members for their tremendous dedication and effort in the past few years, including David Wildersoff, who was a former board chair, Philip Fawkes, who was recently awarded the Dandenong Living Treasure, and Andrew Dong. And I look forward to working with that committee over the next 12 months. So, Madam Mayor, my question is around desexing, and my question is, why is it the City of Greater Dandenong is one of the few councils who do not require compulsory desexing?
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you.
You mean of cats?
Yeah. Did I leave that bit out? Sorry.
Yeah, I think that's... yeah, the mind boggles. Madam Mayor, through yourself, Councillor, this is a question that's also recently come to me from one of the residents. I'm busy formulating a response there, so I will include everybody in that response. Also to mention, though, that this year we're doing a complete review of our domestic animal management plan, generally known as DAMP, and that will be one of the issues that we consider within that as well. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Is that it, Councillor Gerard?
Just to follow up on that, just in light of the Councillor Lana Formoso and I just met with some concerned residents around the care of cats in the City of Greater Dandenong, and just to point out that COVID has meant that we have a tremendous feral cat issue, as do the rest of Australia as a result of COVID, and so I'll look forward to your response. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Mehmedi, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As other councillors spoke about the 8th of March being International Women's Day, we have many special women in our lives. I have a beautiful mother, mother-in-law, wife, sister, 2 daughters, 3 granddaughters, and many, many female friends. It's great that we can recognise International Women's Day. I know we haven't celebrated like in Australia for so many years, but it's only come out, I don't know, like probably the last 10 years that we really celebrated. probably 15, 20 years ago, I don't think we used to have International Women's Day. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody can correct me on it, but last decade probably gone even further. So it's great that we can celebrate our women in our life, and I certainly rely on my women in my family a lot, so it's great to celebrate International Women's Day. Also, Clean Up Australia Day. Councillor Formosa, sensational. 8 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. I could only go out for an hour, but hopefully next year I can do a little bit more. But special thanks goes to everybody in the community who's out there on a Sunday morning, lunchtime, evening, whatever time they did put in. We thank them for what they did. Especially a shout out to the Albanian Australian Islamic Society. It was their first time ever they've organised a Clean Up Australia Day, and I'd like to thank Ilir Alil who took that initiative, and hopefully that'll get bigger and better each year. Also, the Dandenong Thunder and Dandenong City local derby at George Andrews Reserve, which is the biggest spectacle within the city when it comes to a sporting event. We had approximately about 3,000 to 4,000 people attend. We hadn't been able to do that for a long time. It just feels like forever. It was great to see so many people come to George Andrews Reserve and watch a very entertaining game. Also, a highlight that evening was one of the A-League's leading goal scorer in Australia's history. Besard Berisha was in attendance, and he has played for Brisbane Roar, Melbourne Victory, and now plays for Western United. And he told me quietly, he said, there's more people here than what there is at a game at Western United. So, and this was just a local derby in Dandenong, so it's fantastic to see so many people out there. And it was a great honour that the cup is actually played under the Jim Ameti Cup, which is I'm actually very honoured and privileged that they do that. I also attended this afternoon Coco's. If people are not aware of Coco's, Coco's is in Macrae Street. It's the Community Commercial Opportunity. It's an op shop which sells different sorts of things to the community, who do a great job and have worked really hard over the last period which we've had the pandemic. But as everything, they need more stuff. They asked me to see opportunities where they can get good stuff that they can on sell to people in need, and they sell them for 50 cents, $1, $2. It's not very expensive. It's very cheap, but they do require things, anything, books, chairs, tables, clothes, whatever it is, but in good condition, because they don't want people just to dump stuff that people can't reuse. So I think they do a fantastic job, and we need to support them. Just my final question, Madam Mayor, is Facebook's becoming so phenomenal. People that don't like something that's happening, they easily contact you through Messenger or they put it on Facebook. So I had residents in Moomba Parade in Dandenong South put something up on Facebook, and on Moomba Parade it gets quite congested on a Sunday morning, and mainly in other streets where we have temples, mosques, churches, that we actually have no standing on one side and parking on the other side. At the moment in Moomba Parade there's parking on both sides. If something was to happen and we need to call out an ambulance or a fire truck, these vehicles would not be able to go through. So my question is, can Council please look into having one side of Moomba Parade as a no standing, especially on a Sunday morning, that we don't want anything to happen and we can't get to these people who need help. So that's my question, Madam Mayor. Can we look into no standing zones on a Sunday morning in Moomba Parade, Dandenong?
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor, Councillor Mehmeti, yes, we can ask our traffic team to have a look at that and see if parking restrictions are appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Mehmeti.
Madam Mayor, we did discuss the petition for the community hub. I've just received another email. They're just really concerned how things are going. What I'm going to recommend through you, Madam Mayor, if a few of the people in their community, of the community hub, would like to sit down with yourself, Mayor, and the Director and other interested councillors, just so that we can have a working group and so the community can understand where we go from here. I know we've got our working group as councillors and with the directors on Friday and Saturday, so maybe after that we can sit down with the community and just so we don't want to leave them out. We want to work with the community. And I think by forming this group, we can actually progress and have the community to have confidence in the council, because I think they don't have the confidence at the moment. So I'm thinking that's the best way forward. So through you, Madam Mayor, if that can be arranged, hopefully next week or the week after, but I think we can work with the community and make sure that we do deliver for them.
We'll make sure that happens. Thank you, Councillor Mameti. Councillor Tan, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is my report since the previous council meeting. On the 25th of Feb, I attended the Children and Family Partnership and Best Start Improvement Team update, one of the advisory committee. We did it online. So during COVID, the group did had a few, especially difficulty to find location for meeting. That's due to COVID restriction. But we do have a plan coming up now because the restriction is kind of slowed down a bit and due to COVID vaccines rolling soon. So hopefully everything's going to be better from moving forward. On the 3rd of March, I had a privilege to take a picture with our Yarraman Village resident, including yourself, the Mayor, Councillor Long and Councillor Loy Trung. Just want to say thank you to the council officer and all the council staff for months of negotiation with the developer. At least we retained the land and saved at least 26 of the river red gum trees. Got a few questions from the resident regarding that. So moving forward, are we going to keep that land for just open space, or are we going to do any playground with that as well? Thanks.
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you to yourself, Councillor Tan. At this stage, it is public open space. It'd be difficult to see it actually reconfigured as a playground, given the that it's a clump of trees, tops of trees, etc. But I think it's a bit early yet to look too far into the future. The main mission was to secure the land and the 26 trees on it, to ensure that they are protected, become part of council's asset of public open space, and that it gets enjoyed and maintained as public open space. Any improvements that might be made to it down the line, obviously, will be subject to considerations going forward. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Tan.
Thank you. And my other question on behalf of the resident, just including parking issues. So some resident park on the actual grass on itself. So can we actually put a bollard along that street just before the grass and the trees, so no one can park on the grass? That will be their first issue.
I've got that as part of my questions as well.
And on the 3rd of March, I attended the citizenship ceremony at night time with the Mayor and Councillor Richard Lim. So we did welcome 80 of our newest residents to our city. And on the 7th, attended the Clean Up Australia Day. So I just want to say thank you to the CAW, which is the Cambodian Association of Victoria. They've done it, organised the awareness every year, so they've done it for like 35 years. So this year, which is a lot more resident involved, we've got the Cambodian Association of Victoria, we've got the Kamalbang staff as well in Springvale, the Simvac. Also, the group kind of combined. So myself, I took about 12 people, clean up along Douglas Street, which is my Noble Park ward. Also, we've done a lot and yourself, Richard Lim, along Springvale Road and Buckingham Avenue. So, which is a great day for everyone. And on that day as well, so I did have a few meetings with, especially some small business along Douglas Street. So it is really sad during COVID. With discussion with the owner, and one of the owner, when I asked, "Oh, how's the business going?" She's about to burst into tears. I'm like, heartbreaking to see, especially with small business owner doing tough. I know that state government and federal have grant funding at the moment, but as council, what can we do to help these small businesses? Can anyone, I know that some of them doesn't have even online website, anything like that, so they can't really go online and then look for stuff that we have on our website. So anything that we can do to help them, that'll be great. Thanks.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor, thank you, Councillor Tan. Council has previously had a fairly extensive grants program that we've run on 2 occasions to try and assist businesses in the municipality. But obviously there's ongoing challenges with COVID across the city. Perhaps if I can get the details of that particular business, we're happy to reach out to that business to see if we can provide them with some advice to assist them with their current situation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Tan.
Last but not least, just want to say, happy International Women's Day to all the women in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Lim, please.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. On Tuesday, the 23rd of February, I attended a committee meeting at the Springvale Community Hub in the afternoon, where all members expressed how passionate they are about the hub. I really want to promote the hub and library heavily through social media, like health seminar in store or SBS, or seminar in various associations, SBS radio, etc. And thank you, Mr. Martin Fiedler, that very strong support from about my idea. Thanks. On the Saturday, 27th of February, I attend Springvale District Historical Society AGM. I was asked to be chair of the election of the president and committee member, such as treasurer, etc. I expressed my goal to establish a small museum in Springvale by 2022 or 2023 to acknowledge the rich heritage of Springvale from the land's traditional owner to the 1979 or 1980 Southeast Asian refugee settlement. In that time, Councillor O'Reilly was concerned about the budget due to the impact of COVID-19. I said to the Councillor O'Reilly and also the committee member, I said that we can raise funds from local, state or federal government, as well as from multicultural community group within Springvale who would most likely to contribute as they make up a large part of Springvale history. My question is, any possibility that we can help to establish Springvale Museum in the near future? To me, to buy a property in Springvale, especially near Springvale Town Hall, I don't think it costs a lot, probably about $800,000. To me, that's much money we can raise from various associations, such as Cambodian Association, Chinese Association, so many Chinese associations, so many Vietnamese associations, and so on. My question, anything that we can help to make it happen in the near future? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Councillor Lim. Mr. Fiedler, please.
I'll take that question on notice, I think, Madam Mayor, but I do think we would need to look at a feasibility study. That would probably be our first start of getting all the key stakeholders together, but that's something we can look into and provide further information on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fiedler. Councillor Lim, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wednesday, the 3rd of March, thank you to Mr. Jody Bosman, Mr. Kevin Van Boxtel and their team for coming out to visit Springvale Activity Centre and for actively helping support my goal to turn Springvale into a tourist attraction. Thank you so much for your hard work on that afternoon. And also at the same time, I have a chance to attend citizenship ceremony with Mayor Councillor Angela Long and also Deputy Mayor Councillor Sophie Tan. Friday, the 5th of March, I went to visit the owner of Window Club at 12 Balmoral Avenue to thank them for keeping their noise low as possible, because the residents nearby, they complain about the noise for the last many months. They expressed their thanks to me too, as they become more aware and understanding after I had spoken to them. Saturday, the 6th of March, I received an email from business owner who discovered large amount of rubbish at the number 8 Balmoral Avenue car park stairwell. At the same time, I discovered the elevator was not functioning as well. And the phone number on the elevator button was also disconnected. I don't know why. I tried to ring many times. I don't know who to contact to. I decided to email to Mr. Kevin Van Boxtel and probably Mr. Jody Bosman as well, and plus Paul Kersley as well. Yeah, but But on the next morning, coincidentally, I ran into the business owner that emailed to me about the problem, and she took me to see the rubbish that was in the staircase, and turned out to be the rubbish was cleared up and already. It means she thanked you very much to me, and also I said thank you to Mr. Ken Boxtel that organized this sort of cleaning up very promptly. Thank you so much for that. Sunday, the 7th of March, I organized Clean Up Australia in partnership with Cambodian Association for many years, and I'm one of the major sponsors for that Clean Up Australia. With my pharmacy team, with Commonwealth Bank, with Springvale Indo-Chinese Mutual Assistance Association, with Wat Buddharang Say Temple, etc. We pick up trash along Balmoral Avenue, Buckingham Avenue, Windsor Avenue, Springvale Road, Springvale Right Primary School, and Springvale Community Hub. And also, thank you to Councillor Lloyd Truong by providing some gloves and some trash picker, and also myself. We had to buy some to provide to a lot of volunteers on that day. This morning, I come across another trash and rubbish that someone dumped near the corner of Queen's Avenue and also Buckingham Avenue. And this gentleman by the names of James King, he's a former veteran of what we call Vietnam War. He came to me looking for me personally, and he told me that's a very bad image for City of Dandenong. And I was so surprised about that, and I went to have a look by myself to see the rubbish. It actually is a mountain of rubbish, and I already emailed to Joe to help me to send my email to the right department. Thank you for that. And this morning also I organized a health seminar and plus International Women's Day for Cambodian Elderly Association that I organize every year, and especially every month I tend to organize a health seminar for them. But unfortunately the last year, because of COVID, I could not do anything much for them. But this morning is such a great success because they really want to understand what women health all about, what about COVID all about, and also not just that, I always taught them about how to look after themselves as a woman as well. Thank you so much, Madam
Thank you, Councillor Lim. Councillor Milkovich, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll start off with just a couple of questions regarding the questions previously asked. If I could ask through a Madam Mayor relevant officer regarding the update on a possible re-erection of the bus shelter on Althul Drive, just opposite the retirement village there, 237 to 253 Althul Drive. I've had a couple of residents ask me. There is obviously the weather's changing for the worse. We've got autumn and winter time coming, and they would like to know if there has been any update, any progress in regards to maybe securing the bus shelters to be redone.
Yeah, Mr. Van Boxel, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Councillor Milkovic, I'll have to follow that up. Bus shelters is normally the responsibility of the state government, but I need to get some information on the status of that request and come back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Boxel. Councillor
Thank you,
Milkovich.
Mr. Boxtel. Madam Mayor, question regarding parking enforcements along the Kriegel Way. I would assume for Mr. Bosman. The residents are asking, the lines have been painted. They're asking, is this getting enforced now? Because they've noticed quite a few cars are still parking along the side of the road, and they're worried that in the case emergency services need to get through, there might be a question. This is on a busy day, obviously not on a not a busy day. They're just asking, is this going to get enforced? Because they're not sure whether they can park, not park. Are they going to get a fine? They'll get a fine. This is the Kriegel Way entrance to Hatcham Park. Thank you.
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, obviously along a yellow line, Councillor, it's a no standing, no stopping zone, but I'll take your points. We will just make sure that we increase the level of patrols in the area. And, obviously it's a relatively new line that's been painted there, so enforcement generally takes a more understanding approach initially, so it might be a case of issuing warnings before issuing fines, but I will bring it to the attention of the parking management team, and we'll have a few officers out in that Thank you, Madam
Thank you,
Mayor.
Mr Bosman. Councillor Milkovich, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Yeah, thank you very much for that. Yeah, the residents were really just wanting to know because, you know, when you come to the park, you see one car, you think, well, if they've parked, I can park as well. So it's not so much that we want to issue fines. Obviously, the residents, they were just not sure as to what the scenario would be. So I think warnings would be appropriate. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Bosman. Now, the next one is an ever-present issue seems to be in the city of Greater Dandenong, which is rubbish. While a lot of us were busy on Clean Up Australia Day, probably not as busy as Councillor Formosa, credit to her for, you know, pulling a 10-hour day on a Sunday. That was great to see. We've obviously all put our part in, but we unfortunately had a group of quite an ungrateful residents / visitors to Atiachum Park, and they've left quite an unsightly scene for, you know, mums and dads and local residents to pick up at their own accord. This was on Australia Day, so they've sort of gone the other way around, the dirty Australia Day. So I'd like to ask the relevant officer if and what can be done. I know it's a recurring issue, Springvale, Noble Park, all over the place, but is there anything that we can do? The residents are getting a little bit desperate. You know, they sort of go there and clean up the park on their own time, you know, obviously, you know, get the rubbish bags. And we're all happy to participate, but they're sort of getting to a stage where they're a bit fed up, you know, with people having parties and just leaving rubbish absolutely everywhere. I'm talking complete disregard, not even next to the bin. Sometimes you see rubbish next to the bin tied up in a black bag. That's fine, you know, the council officers pick them up. We're talking plastic plates that are getting strewn around. And Atiachum Park is quite unique in the fact that it does have a lot of wildlife. There's a creek that runs through, so plastic bags, plastic plates, you know, any kind of ropes, it really doesn't help the wildlife, not just the appearance of the park, but it's in general sort of hurting the environment, and residents are asking, demanding something. I'm not sure what and how, you know, stop short of, you know, asking police to go there, but can something be done?
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through the Mayor, thank you, Councillor Milkovic. I think there's a lot of pressure on parks at the moment. I think local communities are obviously, whatever reason, predominantly around the pandemic, not travelling as much interstate and obviously not able to travel overseas. I think parks in general are getting a lot of use, which is very welcoming. I guess one of the flow-on effects of that is the amount of litter that gets created, and I think council does a fairly good job with litter collection. I think we our major parks, we actually clean them every day in the morning, and on weekends we have been doing the spot check in the afternoons on Saturdays to keep an eye on things. And any litter that's, the bins are actually empty daily, and any litter that's thrown around and is adjacent to the bins is actually picked up and collected at the time. And then we also have a mobile crew that goes through some of our parks for litter that's blown away from where the bins are, and that is placed to pick up loose items. So I think we're doing a lot in that space. It's not to say that we can't do more. Education is part of that, and that was partly what I mentioned earlier with the response to the public question that had come in on Burden Park, where similar issues were observed recently. I think one of the things that may help to some extent will be, if we could increase the bin capacity, so there's bins in the park, but we mentioned the rollout of the public recycling bins, which would give us more capacity to actually hold litter at those locations. I think that would be of assistance. But we'll investigate that matter further and get some further information to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Van Boxtel.
Madam Mayor, thank you. My question was in no way criticism of council and the officers. I think they do a fantastic job. I've actually witnessed firsthand on a Sunday morning them scrubbing the barbecues, which I think probably shouldn't happen. You know, we should be able to leave barbecues as clean as we found them in the morning, but unfortunately some of us, like I said, choose to abuse the system. So now they're doing a fantastic job. It's more so the fact that whether we can get some signage, something that's going to strike a chord in their minds to sort of wake them up from this, you know, a litter-induced coma, and sort of try and take the rubbish out of home and just maybe put it next to the bin, not just sort of eat a hamburger and throw a wrapper next to the bin. So it was in no means criticism, it was actually words of praise. You guys do a fantastic job, but we just need to somehow educate, and I'd like to ask for your help if we can somehow either educate / enforce that sort of issue. So thank you for that. Another question is regarding Brady Road shops. I've had a meeting with actually just about all the shop owners there regarding some potential installation of public toilets and their desire for that to happen. And in the course of the conversation, I've noticed that quite a few complaints, actually a lot of complaints have come from people getting in front of the liquor shop on the benches and drinking alcohol, and actually even serving alcohol in the liquor shop to people that appear to be quite intoxicated to begin with. I'd like to ask a question for you, Madam Mayor, to relevant officer. If and what can be done to curb this antisocial behaviour? We've got a hair salon, which is a women's hair salon, which is particularly impacted there. The lady's actually quite afraid to walk out of the hair salon at some time, and they have to call even their husbands to come and pick them up because people just sit there. You know, there's obscene language being used, and we don't want this sort of. We don't want the community to feel unsafe. And also, like I said, the fact is that the shop owner, that the bottle shop owner, seems to, in instances, without laying any allegations, that people observe that people walking there quite drunk and incapacitated, and they walk out with even more alcohol and sit there and sort of start throwing obscenities at people. If anything can be done, Madam Mayor, relevant officer.
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you. Councillor Milkovich, over the last while, I think we've had a number of questions around, just generally around antisocial behaviour, different parts of the municipality. I know I've responded to a number of those by way of email. The one thing I think we need to understand is that the council officers are not empowered in situations like you've just described, where there's been the sale of alcohol to people who maybe ought not to have had alcohol sold to them, or where there's antisocial behaviour, etc. This is within the jurisdiction of Victoria Police. And my advice to those particular shop owners is to, when this incident is occurring, is to call on, to dial 000, to call on Vic Police, to have somebody go out there, to have a Vic Police presence to go out there and to investigate. Having my local laws officers patrolling the area is probably not the answer, because they don't have the powers that you are seeking for that intervention. But certainly, I can have my officers go around in the area and do what they can within the local law provisions. But in terms of the antisocial behaviour, this is squarely within the jurisdiction of Victoria Police. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Madam Mayor, another quick question regarding Brady Road shops is on the corner of Brady Road and Victor Avenue, there is about a 20-metre no-standing zone between Brady Road and the actual laneway behind the shops, which is quite, and there's obviously parking on the other side of the road. That particular space is quite frequently occupied for long periods of time by trucks delivering bits and pieces instead of using the laneway at the back, which makes going down Victor Avenue, up Victor Avenue, actually physically impossible if there's cars parked on the other side. Could I please ask you, Madam Mayor, relevant officer, maybe just to send the patrol officer, the parking officers, to patrol a little bit better, particularly not sort of in the evenings when the delivery cease, but particularly in the morning, because it is making a real dangerous. Kids are crossing the road, mums and dads stop to buy stuff from the bakery, and it is a real traffic hazard, especially when the big truck pulls up. You can't actually see anything either side of it. Thank you.
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Milkovich certainly will have that put on the list, and also as a hotspot, an area for increased patrols in the weeks ahead. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Milkovich.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. And finally, after all these questions bombarding, words of praise, actually. We have, Mr. Bosman is obviously where he was intricately involved in this. We have managed to, and this is a question to which I've never had an answer since I was elected, but it was a question asked by a lot of our local residents. We wanted a cafe in Hatcham Park. And there was a lot of suggestions that council should build a cafe, which wasn't financially viable. Mr. Kersley confirmed that. Then the compromise was reached that a planning permit application would be considered and approved for a mobile coffee van. And to those of you who don't know, it was actually a lot more complex than what it originally seemed, because no such permit ever existed in the city of Greater Dandenong. So I'd like to thank Mr. Bosman and his department for actually, first of all, creating a permit and then issuing a permit to one of our local residents to open and operate a coffee shack, a mobile coffee van on a parking lot of the Rosswood Tennis Club. I'm sure mums and dads and anyone else will be quite happy. They'll be caffeinated properly in the morning on the early morning walks and get a warm cup of hot chocolate if they choose to do so. So words of praise, thank you very much for your all hard work, and residents involved do thank you for your efforts as well. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Milkovich. Councillor Dark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, over the last couple of weeks, there's a couple of events I attended to highlight. The first was Dandenong City versus Dandenong Thunder, as Councillor Mehmeti mentioned before, and I saw yourself there with Mr. Long as well. And it was actually a very, very well-attended event, as Councillor Mehmeti said. I believe that security was there, and they had in excess of very close to 10,000 people, I believe, that were there during the whole match on both sides and all around the field. And as Councillor Mehmeti touched on as well, it was one of the highest attended events, and the people from Melbourne City said the same thing, particularly given the attendance. I also attended the Kimura Cricket Club's season finale on this long weekend just gone, and that was another very well attended event. The benefit is that the second teams from the Kimura Cricket Club actually beat Silverton Cricket Club, which is good showing for the Keysborough Award. However, we did come very, very close with our Keysborough Knights, but lost to them. So it was actually a very well-attended event, having so many clubs come together. From the function, I did have some questions raised to me, particularly with the Kimura Reserve heading up against the Kimura Wetlands. In that top corner, there's a gate that heads through, and there's been some complaints by some of the people attending there that there has been quite a bit of, I suppose, rubbish being dumped, bag wastes from dogs. They've been collecting a lot of rubbish that seems to be accumulating. There was one of the residents who did speak to somebody who was throwing their rubbish down there, and they just said that the bin was too far to walk around the other side of the reserve. So I just want to know whether it'd be possible to look at putting a bin right in that corner, and I'm happy to send a map of where they want that to go through.
Mr. Van Boxel, please.
Through the Mayor, thank you, Councillor Dark. If you could send through the location for that, we can investigate that further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Boxel. Councillor Dark, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my next question, I've received some Facebook messages and just received the same thing again tonight, just as a reminder from a resident. Some time ago, I raised the concerns about the Keysborough Community Park on Lockswood Avenue in Keysborough, particularly with the amount of flooding that's been occurring over the reserve. There was a commitment from council to undertake some filling of the tracks and to sort of boost it up in terms of some fill and some more gravel. That has not happened. I've had a phone call from the resident, and including the Facebook messages, asking me what the update is on that and if it is ever going to happen, because it's been quite some time. Can I please get that investigated by the relevant director?
Mr. Van Boxel, please.
Through the Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dark. We'll take that question on notice and come back.
Thank
to
you.
Thank you.
Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My next question comes from a couple of residents from College Crescent and Parkland Court in Keysborough. I was reached out to on the Friday, actually, live last week, that the reserve had some issues about 2 years ago with people illegally riding motorbikes through the reserve, and the council took a step of putting some fencing up, some barriers to stop people from doing it, and that was able to curtail the issue. There was a conversation about some improvements, including some benches, a pergola or something like that for people to be able to sit in. As the turnover has led to a lot of younger families moving into the area as the older generations move out. Just wondering if that could be taken on notice, investigated, whether we could find some improvements to put in the short term pending a review.
Mr. Van Boxel, is that your area?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Dark. Again, we'll take that question on notice and we'll follow that up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. My next question is for the Director of Planning, I suppose, and it's a question that I raised with him tonight. He's taken on notice. It has to do with the provision and issuing of building orders to do with uses within premises that's not actually permitted, which is an issue we seem to be facing within the city of Great Dandenong at the moment. I just wanted to make sure that this was then recorded on the record, and he can then get back to me, was what the provisions are around building orders, particularly given the issue we have at the moment in Robinson Street. I am aware that we are having a meeting next week, yourself, Mayor, myself, and the Director of Community Services, to talk about the issues confronting it. But it was something that was raised with me, particularly around what our options are with that. So if that could please be investigated.
Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, thank you through yourself. Councillor Dark and I did discuss this prior to the meeting. I will have a look at what role, if any, building orders can play in or as part of the solution to the situation described by Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mr. Bosman. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my next question, I had a phone call from Rados Tomic from the Noble Park Drina Soccer Club as part of the Parkfield Reserve, where they're allocated to play. They had a question regarding, I suppose, the construction and getting the lights up and running on the reserve, the tenders going out for the car park and when that's expected to come back, and then also just a shaping up of the oval now that we've removed the velodrome from the site. If the relevant director could just get in touch with the Noble Park Drina Soccer Club just as their season's about to commence, to keep them in the loop on the improvements when that's expected to be fully up and running.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Darkers. We'll follow up with the club on that particular matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Almost there. My next question is to do with some residents on Keys Road in Keysborough who asked me some questions regarding the upgrade of the Perry Road widening. I'm aware that apparently there was an accident there about a week ago on the bend as you head towards Pacific Drive, and I was alerted that there was commitment of some sort, drawings, funding for the widening and the duplication to occur from Perry Road from the River End Bridge to where Eastlink is all the way down to Greens Road. Do we have any update on what exactly happened with that, if that is still happening? And if not, can we please investigate that bend on Pacific Drive just with the collision that occurred?
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Again, Councillor Dark, I'd like to take that question on notice. I'm not across that matter. Thank you.
Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, I'm aware as well that all of the local volunteer fire brigades, Keysborough, Springvale, Dandenong and Noble Hug have all had their brigade elections, and there's quite a turnover of new captains taking on positions and people taking on some leadership positions within the CFA. I was wondering, as Mayor, if you could please write to the people who have been elected to the brigade manager teams, the captains and lieutenants. I'll source the information as it comes to hand and I'll send it on. I believe that Keysborough's elections are coming up, but Noble Park has got a new captain and some new executive, and then the same thing with Springvale as well. So if you could please write to them.
If you could supply the names, I'd do the letters. Thank you. Councillor Dark.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, my second last question for today. Was raised with me actually on the weekend, and I spoke to Councillor O'Reilly regarding the Newcomen Reserve in Springvale, where the Springvale District's football club play. Some time ago, there was some extensive media coverage around a corporate box on the site, and the site does have, I suppose, a mismatch where you've got a heritage listed stand on one side, and then on the other side there's a lot of old buildings which I believe had been scheduled to be demolished. That has not happened, and there's some queries coming from a lot of people who play at Springvale Districts and a lot of local residents as to what is happening at the reserve. I'm aware that Councillor O'Reilly has got a CRP bid for a minor amount, but I believe Newcomen Reserve is in need of a significant boost of financial support. If we could have a conversation with Springvale Districts, with ward councillors as well, to find out what options are happening with that, that'd be great.
Is that Mr Fiddler? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll take that question on notice. We'll have to see where the master plan and where that process is in the infrastructure planning, but it's definitely something we can do is to get the key stakeholders together to talk about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dark, your last question, is it?
Yes, my last question, Mayor. Mayor, my last question, I received a phone call from Councillor Cameron Howe from the City of Kingston. I did ask him to send an email around, which I believe he did to the majority, if not all of the councillors, to do with a footpath on River End Road from the private school there up towards the bypass and then underneath where the freeway is currently being built. It's because it's become quite a hazard, and I myself went down there to have a look to see what it's like, and there's no question that River End Road is starting to sink, and it's not a very even road, and there's no real area for kids to be able to walk home from the school without being trapped. I'm aware that he did send, for those that were included in email, the budget constraints that council's facing at the moment. But I just want to find out, one, if we've investigated it, and two, given I believe it falls into the electorate of Mordialloc, and there seems to be a surplus of funding available, whether we could potentially also write to the state government to see if we can source some funding from them as well.
Mr Van Boxtel, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Dark. Again, we'll have to take that question on notice. That's at Cornish College, is it?
Yes, fine.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it, Councillor Dark?
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Wednesday, the 24th of February, I attended the Take a Swing for Charity Golf Day. That afternoon, I attended the Dandenong North Senior Citizen Club meeting. 25th of February, I attended the 2021 Drum Theatre program launch. That afternoon, I attended the South East Community Links AGM via Zoom. On the 26th of February, I attended Dandenong High School Assembly, presenting of leadership badges. That night, as a lot of people have stated already, I attended Dandenong City Soccer Club and Dandenong Thunder Soccer Club match. It was a 1-1 draw. On the 27th of February, I attended Dandenong Cricket Club meeting, and later that afternoon, Sangram Performing Arts Festival of South Asia and the Diaspora present Earth Matters, a walking tour of Dandenong. On Monday, the 1st of March, I attended the tour of the construction site of the new Mason Street Gallery and vacant PEP building. Wednesday, the 3rd of March, I had a photo shoot at Hannah Street Development in the area that Council has just purchased to save 26 river red gum trees. And I also attended the Dandenong and District Historical Society AGM meeting. That night I attended the citizenship ceremony. 82 new Australians became through on that ceremony. On Thursday, the 4th of March, I attended the Biodiversity Action Plan and picked and announced the winners of the community consultation phase, Alex Wilkie Reserve. On the 5th of March, I attended the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. That afternoon, I attended the football game between Dandenong City and All Saints Soccer Club. Dandenong City lost 2-1. On the 7th of March, Sunday, Clean Up Australia Day, I joined SEWA at Greaves Reserve. Monday, the 8th of March, we celebrated International Women's Day. And on Tuesday, today, I attended Challenged Forever exhibition closing event, which was on world wars, which is World War I, World War II, and Vietnam, and any other conflict war that we were involved in. That was at the Walker Street Gallery. Also, tonight, because of COVID-19, Council was not able to have an International Women's Day celebration. So we had a lucky draw where numbers were sent out to various clubs and organisations. It was drawn at 5:30 tonight. First prize, $300 worth of vouchers from Dandenong Market, was won by Dandenong Arts Club. The number was 343. Second prize, $200 worth of vouchers from Dandenong Market, was won by Noble Park Legacy, number 587. And third prize was $100 worth of vouchers from Dandenong Market, was won by Dandenong Agricultural and Pastoral Society, number 648. I've got one question tonight, which is unusual for me. I normally don't have questions, but my question is very similar to Councillor Tan's. Could Council work with the Hannah Street Body Corporate to build bollards along the driveway, because I don't know where our boundary is and where their boundary ends, next to the area Council has just purchased, where there are 26 river gum trees, to stop some tenants from parking their cars in this area. There was actually a car that had been parked there for months unregistered, and the residents there thought we had the ability to actually tow that car away. I said we'd have to work out whether it was on our property or the building's property. If it was on the building's property, we can't tow it away from there because it's on private land. So hopefully we can work out where our boundary is, but what they're talking about is running the bollards right along that driveway so people cannot get into any part of that area. Mr. Bosman, please.
Madam Mayor, this is something I'll discuss with Mr. Van Boxtel as well. We have the title deed with the title of boundaries, the properties. Determining where it is shouldn't be too much of a problem. And then whether we can install any bollards or some sort of mechanism as you desire, then that can be a discussion between Mr. Van Boxtel and myself. Then we'll come back to you and keep the other councillors copied into that as well.
But I also think the boundary is going to be a little bit beyond that driveway, and what the residents are saying from there, if they could build it along the driveway. So we'd have to work in with the body corporate to see if we could work together to put that boundary up. Mr. Bosman.
Madam Mayor, obviously what happens along the driveway within the private property is the body corporate's
Yep.
responsibility, their business. Certainly, we'll have a discussion with them as to what could and might happen within the public domain and see if there's some sort of integration of the two.
Yep.
But obviously, our involvement would end at the public boundary.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Mayor.
you. Right, Mr. Benny, please. Sorry.
Mayor and councillors, there are 11 councillor questions taken on notice at the last meeting. 9 of those have been completed and are tabled this evening. 2 of them are work in progress and will require some further work before they can be addressed. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Benny. Item number 7, urgent business. As there's no urgent business, I declare this meeting closed and thank you very much for your attendance.